What is domestic violence?
In my opinion, I think domestic violence is when people they abuse animals.
Domestic violence is when domestic means home. So in a home situation, somebody is being treated violently.
Don't really know.
It could be any type of abuse at home, verbal or anything that has to do with hitting someone, stuff like that.
When like a man abuses his wife or like guys abuse girls.
In my definition, domestic violence, it does have a gendered component. It's largely violence against women. Sometimes, depending on the family structure, it can be by the husband's family, if it's a joint family like in India, or it can be by the husband. But most of the cases, over 90%, are violence by the husband against the wife or by the partner, whether or not they're married.
I think domestic violence is usually when there are people that have some sort of relationship or knowledge of each other, not strangers, but there's some sort of a familial relationship or a friendship relationship, and some sort of violence, whether it's verbal or physical, occurs between them. And it's usually something that happens frequently, but sometimes it's a one-time thing.
Well, I don't really know the exact meaning, but I know really well that it's violence against certain types of people, like children or women. I know child violence, domestic violence, and women, like how they treat them, and yeah.
I think that it means like violence that happens at home, or
I think domestic violence means like fighting and abuse and unfair.
domestic violence is basically when the husband and wife, they fight and the husband abuses the wife, so the wife then gets like incredibly injured by him slapping her or abusing her by others.
What, in your perspective, are ways to try and end domestic violence?
We could try to collect the animals that are being abused and put them into one area and ask people to adopt them.
Education probably, such as having classes, maybe at AUB, or creating awareness, like maybe having posters or billboards up around Hamra saying a statistic, maybe like, I don't know what the real statistic is, but 1 in 3, households have domestic violence, just so people are thinking about it and talking about it.
I think for the people that are in, like people that see or people that are involved in domestic violence, I think that some people should maybe have not like a shelter or a place that those people can go to and can stay at.
I have no ideas.
Like they should get there's a lot of domestic abuse in Lebanon, and if there was actually like a law, like an important law that stopped it, and if that law was actually enforced, then I guess.
I think one of the core idea is that that we have to confront is that women are considered less than men. And if they are less than men, or have less agency than men, or have less control over their own futures, or what they say is right and wrong, then it's going to be very difficult to change relationships based on violence. If one person feels by nature, by right, that they can control another person, that's what we need to change. And that's the kind of gender assumptions that is not just true about Lebanon, it's true about every country.
I think counseling is always really important for those who either have experienced it or have instigated violence on anyone. I think that's one way to go towards that. I think also I think domestic violence needs to be more out in the public, more visually seen. as something as unacceptable.
We're raising awareness, and I think the way to raise awareness is to show them how it affects your childhood and how it's going to affect your future. Because if you're getting, for example, you're a child and you're getting abused at home, and then when you grow up, you're going to maybe you're not going to get married because you think all people who are married treat like all people who are married treat each other like that, like how your parents treated each other, and maybe you will pass that. If you get married, you will do the same thing that what your parents did to your kids, and it's a cycle that keeps going on.
You could raise more awareness about it and let people know you can try and stop it.
Try to help the people who's being abused and trying to stop the violence in the world.
I want to raise awareness about it because it's been happening worldwide, and we should raise awareness in every single country and try to help those women who are being abused.
Do you think we are progressing towards the end of domestic violence? Do you think we ever will?
I don't. There might be a possibility, but some people are cruel and they just don't care. So it would be hard to stop it in total.
I think that around the world more awareness is starting to happen of domestic violence. Not necessarily in every place, but in some places. And I don't know specifically about Lebanon. But I think in general there's increasing awareness of it. I'm not sure if the problem is getting better. But for example, in Saudi Arabia, where it's a very large problem, I know they're starting to put advertisements and bulletin boards up and things like that. So I hope so.
I think in many years we will, but we're not progressing.
One day we might, but you can never stop it completely. But you should keep working to stop it.
Maybe there's hope.
I think there's greater awareness that there is such a thing as domestic violence, one. I think there's greater awareness that domestic violence is not right, two. And these, to me, are really important gains. And they were not easily won. So when I was a girl, there were no domestic violence laws. It wasn't seen as a crime. And so this is something that I've seen happen in my lifetime. And to me, then it changes from a joke, which is the way violence against women was talked about when I was a girl, like it's something you laugh about, to something that's a criminal offense. So step by step, that to me is a change I've seen in my lifetime.
I hope so.
I don't think we're progressing, but I don't think we'll ever stop domestic violence because nobody would listen.
If it stays at this kind of rate, then I don't actually think that they're gonna do a difference. For example, in Lebanon, when there is a couple fighting, there won't be. They're not doing anything about it. They're just letting the woman be abused. So if nothing happens at this rate, then no, we're not gonna be ending it. But if someone actually steps up and makes a difference and talks to the minister and tells him to change it, then yeah, we will. Okay.
We might be progressing a bit, and I think we should really try and stop it and raise more awareness if we want it to end.
For the women who need support, if they are victims of violence, they can call CAFA's helpline. It's 03 018 019. So you can't just come and parachute different target groups into one basket, like the elderly, the children, because children's needs are not the same as women's needs, and the elderly has different needs, and of course we cannot say that men have the same needs as women, or that men are subjected to violence as women, because we know that this violence, it has a gender dimension. It's a gender-based violence. It means it is a violence that is inflicted on women because they are women. The issue for us was the law should criminalize all types of violence within the family. Criminalized if you want, the bruise that comes with the rape, not the rape itself, not the act of coercion per se. And they also called it claiming marital rights by force. And and to call sexual contact or intimacy a marital right, a right of the husband, this is dangerous because you're introducing religious concepts into a civil law, and you're also reinforcing this power over the woman's body and the issue, this concept of marital rights.